Boker Tov, good morning. We're in Parshat Re'eh, heading Rosh Chodesh of Elul on Shabbat B'ezrat Hashem. Re'eh is always Rosh Chodesh Elul, and yeah, time goes by. We have to prepare for Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so today we'll discuss. We have many things in Parashat Re'eh, a lot of mitzvot. But usually I speak about the beginning of the parasha. This way, here I want to speak about the Parashat Ma'achalot. Okay, so before we start Parashat Ma'achalot, we have to pay attention that during Perek Yud Bet, you see here Perek Yud Bet, we have in the middle the tzivui of dam. Okay, Hakadosh Baruch Hu speaks about the korbanot that you have to bring just to Beit HaMikdash, and you have to be happy by bringing it to Beit HaMikdash, etc. And then you say, כי אם במקום אשר יבחר השם באחד שבטיך, שם תעלה את עולותיך, שם אתה, there you bring your korbanot, and רק אדם לא תאכלו, על הארץ תשפכנו כמים, meaning to say כאילו, as if the dam is a part of the korbanot, meaning to say that by bringing basar to Beit HaMikdash, then you eat just the basar, you don't eat the dam. And as we described many times, in Beit HaMikdash it was full of blood, full of, the Gemara describes Kohanim walking with their knees full of blood from the korbanot. So you might think that the main issue of Beit HaMikdash is not the basar, is not the animal, is just the blood, and therefore Torah tells you no, not like this. The dam is spilled like water, and we know that there was a spring, according to the Gemara in the Azara, that they have a kak, they would take it away, and then it would wash like a sponge. Will make a sponge to all the Azara and it wash away, and then you have a problem because you have water filled with the blood of the korbanot. Can you use it for watering the fields? It's organic, it's very good, but on the other hand, it's shiurim, it's a remains of the korbanot, or moalimbo. You cannot do it. And okay, that's a dam. We'll discuss it later if we have time. And then the Torah comes to Parashat Ma'achalot Asurot. How does the Torah start with it? In Perek Yud Banim atem le'Hashem Elokechem, you are the sons of Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Therefore what? So we don't have many times a description of being sons of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's Bni Bechori Yisrael, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Paro at the beginning of Yetziat Mitzrayim. It's a big Maila, and therefore would expect the Torah to say you're the sons of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You shouldn't, you have to behave imitatio dai, to imitate him, to do what he wants, what he is Kodesh, etc. But the Torah comes from the negative meaning, saying, בנים אתם להשם אלוקיכם, לא תתגודדו, ולא תשימו כרוכה בין עיניכם למת. So by, when חס ושלום you have nevelos, there you cannot לפצוע את עצמך, injure yourself, just because of the avelos. כי עם קדוש אתה להשם אלוקיך, ובך בחר השם להיות לו לעם סגולה מכל העמים אשר על פני האדמה, לא תאכל כל תועבה. So the smichut of Parashot Ma'achalot Asurot to Banim Atem Le'Hashem Elokechem, showing that there is something special in the behemoth, in eating or not eating what you shouldn't eat. And then the Torah goes and tell you at length, זאת הבהמה אשר תאכלו. You have many behemoth that you should eat, the tehorot, shor, sek, savim, seizim, okay, ayal, tzvi, even some chayot you can eat, akor, dishon, ov, azamer, whatever it means. You know that according to several shitot, one of them is the zamer is a giraffe. So the legend that we cannot eat a giraffe because it has a long neck and we don't know exactly where to shaykh it. It's just a mistake or shtuyot, because if a cow has a long neck, we can sheikh it wherever we want. The same thing with giraffe. The problem with giraffe that we don't have a masoret, tradition to eat it, and we should have more than the simanei tahara. We have a masoret. You know that every 4 years, I think, there is in Yerushalayim a special meal, and then they eat all the strange things. They bring all the minhagim to eat dag cherev and to eat because the Gemara says that it has a taste of a chazir, so we want to taste it because that's permitted. And some, you know, the Yemenites eat arbe, and some edot eat different things, so they have to to maintain it in order to do it. They make a Seudah every few years that everybody will remember that we have a Masoret. Not everybody eats it's ayal, but this Edah, this Shevet has a Masoret to eat it. Okay, so we have all the kshirim, and then we have כל בהמה מפרסת פרסה ושוסעת שסע שתי פרסות, מעלת בהמה בגרה, בבהמה אותה תאכל. So we have the סימני טהרה, מפרסת פרסה, שוסעת שסע, מעלת גרה, there we can eat. אך את זה לא תאכלו, and then we have the exception. So the ברירת מחדל, the default here in our parsha is the good, what you should eat. אך את זה לא תאכלו, ממעלה הגרה וממפרסי הפרסה השסועה, את הגמל, את הארנבת, את השפן, את החזיר, all of them, את זה מבשרם לא תאכלו ונבלתם לא תיגעו. So to sum up, we have all the list of the things that you should eat, and then you have the things that you shouldn't eat. Afterwards, we have את זה תאכלו מכל אשר במים, in the fish, as we know, in the מים it's very easy, you don't have shchita, you just have סימני טהרה and that's it. כל אשר לא סנפיר וקסקסת תאכלו. So again, we have the good things, וכל אשר אין לו, סנפיר וקסקסת לא תאכלו, טמא הוא לכם. Now we go to the off, and we have again the list of the good things. The list is just for words, okay? One pasuk י"א, כל ציפור טהורה תאכלו. So the base, the default by off is that you should eat whatever you want. Now we know nowadays that we have, as I said, we have tradition. We cannot eat every off that we want, okay? But if we have a tradition, that's Chazal. But according to the Torah, you should eat whatever you want out of the birds. וזה אשר לא תאכלו מהם. Now we have the exceptions. נשר, פרס, אוזניה, רעה, עיד, היה, עורב, בת יענה, תחמס, שחף, נץ, כוס, ינשוף, תנצמת. We have many exceptions, like 20 more, but the baseline is that כל ציפור טהרה תאכלו, okay? And we have again, if you didn't understand that, it's כל עוף טהור תאכלו, it's לכאורה a repetition, okay? So we have here, to sum up in Parshat Re'eh, we have the baseline is that we have the בעלי חיים המותרים, okay? כל ציפור טהורה תאכלו, או כל בהמה תאכלו, and then we have the exceptions which are non-permitted. Let's go back to Parashat Shmini. In Parashat Shmini, we have the same thing in פרק י"א. Torah says at length, דברו זאת החיה אשר תאכלו, מכל הבהמה אשר על הארץ. We have to pay attention that the context there is not Kedusha, because in our parasha we find Kedusha, okay? כי עם קדוש אתה, בנים תהיו להשם אלוקיכם, as I started, לא תתגודדו, כי עם קדוש אתה להשם אלוקיך, ובחר לא להיות לעם סגולה, etc. So it's just a meaning of a Kedusha, okay? And the ending pasuk of the parashat מאכלות אסורות לא תאכלו כל נבלה, כי עם קדוש אתה להשם אלוקיך, לא תבשל בגדי וחלב עמו. Meaning to say that מאכלות אסורות, including בשר וחלב, is just because of the Kedusha, okay? You shouldn't eat it because you're a Kodesh. Whereas in Parashat Shmini, we didn't find the word of Kodesh, okay? It's just what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat. And again, it might be the difference between the four former Sforim, as we mentioned several times, that several Sforim come from HaKadosh Baruch Hu's perspective. Okay, the big Maharal, I repeat the Maharal that I mentioned several times, that the four former Sforim comes from the point of view from HaKadosh Baruch Hu's perspective, and therefore you don't have any reason why you should eat or not. It is just a tzivui Hashem. As the Gemara says, וכי אכפת לו לקדוש ברוך הוא אם אתה שוחט מן הצוואר או מן העורף. Does the Kadosh Baruch Hu care if you shachet from here or from there? It's just a meaning of listening to Kadosh Baruch Hu's tzivui. Okay, we're just soldiers that listen to Kadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore, we don't have any reason why it's good or not. Whereas in Parashat Re'eh, symbolizing the whole Sefer Dvarim, it's from our perspective, from the Mekabel perspective. Maharal says the receivers, the Am Yisrael that gets the Torah, that receives the Torah. So from our side, we have to understand Parashot Ma'achalot Asurot. It doesn't have to be just binary. Either permitted or not. We have to understand it's a part of Kedusha. But let's go back to the differences between Parashat Shmini and Parashat Re'eh. In Parashat Shmini, as I said, the first difference is that we don't find the Kedusha. And then we say, Zot ha'chaya asher tochlu mikol ha'behema asher al ha'aretz. We have just kol mafreset parsa, ושוסעת שסה פרסות, מעלת גרה בבהמה אותה תאכלו. We don't have any dugmaot, any examples of the animal that you should eat. We just have the klalim. But then immediately the Torah goes and says, אך את זה לא תאכלו. ממעלה הגרה וממפרסי הפרסה, and then the Torah brings גמל, שפן, ארנבת, חזיר, מבשרם לא תאכלו וכולי וכולי. Okay, by the Maim, it's the same thing like our parasha, so I won't discuss it. But after the Pasuk Yud Bet, the Torah ends with the water issues, with this fish, כל אשר אין לו סנפיר וקשקשת במים שקצו לכם, ואת אלה תשקצו מן העוף, לא יאכלו, שקץ הם, and then we have a long list, like 20 things that we have in our parasha. So again, the Torah starts with the non-permitted things to eat. Not like our parasha, the Torah starts with the taharot. The Torah starts there from the asurot, from the, in Be'emayim Chaya, the Torah started from the klal. The Torah didn't give any details, and then it goes to the details of the non-permitted chayot and be'emot, and then to the kshirot. Here, it's more stressed out because in the off, the Torah doesn't even say the klal. The Torah says that elo tekshakzu min ha'of. So the breirat mechdal, the default is that you shouldn't eat from the off bichlal. And then after the long list, the Torah says that the Torah even doesn't, sorry, the Torah doesn't even say anything about the good. The Torah just says this not, and you know that all the rest you can eat. And then the Torah saying about the sheretz says, "Ach et ze tochlu mikol sheretz ha'of," after saying kol sheretz ha'of olech al arba sheketzu lachem. So again, in our parasha, breirat hamechdal, the brira is to eat what you should eat from the chayot, what you should eat from the be'emot, what you should eat from the off, and then we have exceptions. It might be a lot of exceptions, like in the off, but the breirat mechdal is that basically you can eat it all. Whereas in Parashat Shmini, it was breirat mechdal of everything is non-permitted. And we can relate this difference to the former difference that we said. First of all, Parashat Shmini comes in Sefer Vayikra as a part of the four former Sforim. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides what you eat and what you don't eat. Or as he decided in Gan Eden that you can eat everything but not the Etz Hadat, whatever it be, if it's an apple, or like the Christians, or anavim, or grapes, or chita, wheat, according to Chazal. But in Parashat Shmini, in Sefer Vayikra, he decides what you eat. So the baseline is that Everything you eat, as we know in brachot, is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hands. Nothing is yours. Nothing is yours, and you just have permission if you mevorech, if you say a brocha. And the same thing with Behemot and Isur. If basically it's all non-permitted, you shouldn't eat anything because you damage what HaKadosh Baruch Hu created. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a lot of animals, a lot of birds, and you shouldn't damage them. You shouldn't hurt them. But if HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you a permission, that's an exception, and therefore it's a matter of exception. And more than that, here we see many times the word itma, tum'ah, the context is tum'ah and tahara. Ele atme'im lachem, and then kli cheres, whether it's tum'ah, as we said, it doesn't have anything with kedusha. It's just the tum'ah and tahara. What is the exception? To be tameh or to be tahor? So the exception is to be tameh, okay? And therefore the Torah starts with the exception, with the what is metameh etchem. The Torah wants to warn you that basically the whole world you can live in it, but we have to warn you that most of these animals make you tameh by eating them. But in Sefer Dvarim, in Re'eh, we come back to the parasha with no tum'ah and tahara. The context is more kedusha and non-kedusha. What is the exception in kedusha or non-kedusha? Being a kodesh is an exception because usually we discuss the chol. We live in the chol. We live in the non-mekudesh place. Just if we go to Bet HaMikdash, we go to the Azara, we go to Kodesh HaKodeshim, to Kodesh, to Ezrat Israel, to wherever we want, there we have a kedusha, and therefore the exception is the kedusha, and that's why we start from the exception. We start from the kedusha, meaning to say the tahor, the things that are tahor. But again, it's two things. It's first, I now mentioned the second one, the kedusha versus tum'ah, but it's our sefer against versus HaKadosh Baruch Hu sefer. Now in Sefer Dvarim, it's our sefer. We don't feel or we don't live like that everything belongs to Hashem, and we just eat from His own remnants, and therefore we don't eat from Shulchan Gavoa, because in Hashamayim Shamayim LaHashem ve'aretz natan livnei Adam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the earth to work on it and to do things on it, and therefore basically we should use lirdot bebaalei hachaim, as HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Adam HaRishon, urdu ba. You should conquer, you should take control over the things in the world. So it includes food, and therefore you should eat whatever you want. You have some exceptions. So that's another reason why here it starts from the good, the things that are permitted and the things you shouldn't eat later. I want to give you a nice explanation that I've heard about the difference between Baalei Chaim themselves in the Simanei Kashrut. As we know, if you go to the supermarket, nowadays I don't think we have many supermarkets with fish, but I remember when I was a child, we went to the supermarket and they had the swimming pool of fish, and then they caught fish, and they hate it, and you had it ready. Okay, so nowadays kimat ve'en, and even in fish stores they don't do it that cruel as they used. Okay, so in Simanei Tahara, let's say that you're going abroad and you don't know anything about the fish. You can just check if it's from salmon. You know that salmon is kosher because it has napir v'kaskeset. So you can eat salmon. You just make sure that with a knife they didn't touch any non-permitted dog, or they washed it, etc. And they can buy salmon if you are sure that they didn't put anything on it, because there is no shchita, there is no any tahalich, any process to do. Just you buy a product, a fish that is permitted, and that's it. It has snapir kaskeset, and it's permitted. But on the contrary, when coming to behema, how you should shoichet it, it's a Mishnah in Chulin. You need two simanim. It has here two pipes and veshet and kaneh, and you have to shoichet most of them. Okay, basically, the shoichet does both of them, but if he made 1.5, it's okay. But it's not permitted to do it less than that. So you need two simanim to shoichet behema or chaya if we have, but we don't. And in the middle you have of, according to the Gemara, of just needs siman echad of shchita, and therefore you should eat it. So what's the real difference between them all? And if you look at, as I said, kedusha, this parsha deals with kedusha. If you look at the world outside, you see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu dwells upon places that are on earth. How do I know that? HaKadosh Baruch Hu ke'ilu doesn't dwell on water. How do I know that? The Mabul, the flood, okay, that was ke'ilu, the world is distracted, and if it's all full of water, כאילו I don't exist, nobody exists, it's תוהו ובוהו, כאילו רוח אלוקים מרחף על פני המים, but nothing exists. And I can see it in Yonah, Sefer Yonah, because Yonah, what does he want? On its surface, he wants to escape, right, from Eretz Israel, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had told him to go to Nineveh, and the nevuah is given in Eretz Israel, and therefore he wanted to escape because he thinks that in the sea, in the ocean or the sea, the Mediterranean, he won't have hashgacha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why does he think this stupid thing? Because he understands that in the water we don't have HaKadosh Baruch Hu. His mistake is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is on the water and he can harm him, he can make the se'arot and the storms that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made, but basically HaKadosh Baruch Hu is much less in the water. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as I said, ve'aretz natan livnei adam, the place that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave human beings to live and to dwell and to do Torah mitzvot and to do bad things is just earth, it's just the ground. And there HaKadosh Baruch Hu exists, there he shows his Shekhinah, and then he has more Mekudashim places and he has less Mekudashim places, but it's just must be a part of it. I'll come back to what I started. That's exactly what happens with the behemoth. When you shoichet the behemoth, so it's basar, its basar is a part of the Adamah. Okay, because they were created from the Adamah, and therefore that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu can decide that this behema, when it's shalom, it doesn't have any movement, it's brought to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it has kedusha, if it's shlamim, if it's olah, whatever you bring, and it has some kedusha, and I eat it ke'ilu, Mizbeach ke'ilu eats it, whatever it means, but the blood, okay, the water of it, the liquid of the body, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't need it. Therefore, don't think that it has any kedusha. On the contrary, lo tochlenu al haaretz tishpechenu kamayim. What does it mean, kamayim? That blood is no more than just a liquid, just a water. It doesn't have any kedusha. I can never say that it's kodesh. Therefore, you don't relate to it as a kodesh substance. Okay, so going back to Yonah and going back to this Anachat Yesod, okay, that axiom that HaKadosh Baruch Hu exists more in the places on earth. He exists, by the way, more in the desert, where nobody has his urbanization, his buildings, where there is less human society. We see it in Matan Torah. We know that one of the Talmidim of Rav Kook was a Nazir, the Rav Nazir, and he went to the desert in order to find the Nevuah. He thought, like almost 100 years ago, that if he would go to Midbar Yehuda, HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes back to Eretz Israel and he'll be able to inherit the ruach, the spirit of Eretz Israel, and therefore he looked for the nevuah just in the desert. And he has Yoman Ishi that he wrote, very, very interesting, called Mishnat HaNazir, and there he shows his chavayot and his experiences from going to the desert, from going out of the yishuv, out of the settlement, going back to just the ground, just the mountain, just the hills of the desert, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he fills him more and more. He didn't succeed. The story was that he went to the desert, and after a few days he was almost exhausted and kimat dried out, and then he understood that it's earlier, it's too early to get a nevuah, and he was very disappointed. But in the desert, where you don't have human interruption, there you have kedusha. In Yerushalayim, in Tel Aviv, in places that the human being builds, cuts trees, uses his own power, there you have a little bit less kedusha. But again, on the ground we have kedusha. On the animal we have kedusha. In the blood, in the liquid, in the water, we don't have kedusha. The Gemara says in Chulin that of nivra min harakak. What does it mean? The Gemara Kehilat says that the off was created from a mixture of the ground, the soil, and Kehilat water from the sea, the ocean. Adam HaRishon and all the animals were created on Friday from just soil. The Gemara says that Adam HaRishon was created from the soil under the Mizbeach, but it doesn't matter. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him the neshama, okay, the upper neshama from heaven. But his material, his chomer, is just soil, pure soil. Fish is created ke'ilu just from the ocean. Okay, he dwells in the ocean, he dwells in the water. He needs the water because without water, after a minute, he dies. It dies. Okay, and the whole, when you touch a fish, you see it's soft. It has it's liquid. It made like a ocean or water material. Behema, if it's dried out after a few days, that it fades away. So you have just the basar, which is very dry, which is it's like something to be buried in the ground. It's pure soil, like human being. And in the middle, you have the off. The off, according to Chazal, was created either from the soil and from the water. The Gemara calls it the rakak, meaning like the bots from the mud. Kadosh Baruch Hu took mud and made the off muddy, made out of soil and water. So now, going back to this that axiom that we put earlier, we can understand all the things in Simanei Kashrut. The behema, since it's made basically from the soil, since it's made from the earth, the place that the Kadosh Baruch Hu dwells on it, it has, if you want to eat it, it has a lot of kedusha. Therefore, you need two simanim. You have two simanim that you have to be shoichet, or most of them, in order that you be machshirit to be able to eat. On the other hand, if you have the fish, it dwells all the time just in the water, place that the Kadosh Baruch Hu ke'ilu doesn't exist there. Yonah wants to escape to the water, and therefore, by wanting to eat some from the fish, Torah says that you have some simanei snapir v'kaskeset, but you don't have to do any process in order to be machshirit. You don't have any process. You can cut it. If you want to eat the head, you can eat. If you want to eat something else, you can eat. Nothing is permitted. The blood, you don't have to wash it in a fish. You can eat it if you want. You can cook it if you want, because just when it's snapir v'kaskeset, you don't have any process. It doesn't have you. In order to be machshirit, to make it kedusha, it won't help you, because it's come from the water from the sea. Therefore, it doesn't have kedusha in any way. So, therefore, you cannot be machshir. Off has dargat beinayim in between, because from the one hand, it's made from the soil, okay? But from the other hand, it's made from the water. And it's all together, it's made from the rakak. So on the one hand, it looks like something like behemah, the same thing. On the other hand, it's like dag. And we know that it was created on the same day of the fish, on Thursday, not Friday. So it looks like it belongs more to the fish, but it's not like fish, because there is one stage of fish being just pure water, one stage of being mixed of soil and water, and one stage of animal that it has just the water doesn't have any place, just the soil, just the body itself. Therefore, with off, we don't have two simanim, we have just one, and therefore we can understand all the things in Parashat Shmini and Parashat Re'eh. As I said, there are some distinctions and differences because of Kedusha in our Parasha or Taira, being from our side, like in our Parasha, or from Kadosh Baruch Hu side in Parashat Shmini. But in looking into the details of the three families that we find in the eating things, the Behemot and Chayot, the Ofot, and the Dagim, we understand that they are distributed according to the difference and according to what they are made of: soil, pure water, or the middle of them. And therefore, we have, if it's soil, it has more kedusha, and Adam that is more soil and has more kedusha because it has neshama. He has neshama from above. Therefore, he has much more kedusha if he uses himself. Behema that doesn't have neshama from above. It's just soil. But soil itself, we usually, when we compare neshama, spirit, and material, and gashmi, we discuss the material. We say, nah, it's nothing. We cannot. Hakadosh Baruch Hu cannot suffer it. But according to other animals, we see that if you have pure soil, pure material, it's more probable of being Kaddish than if you are just water. And therefore, we have the lowest family, the water, the Dagim. We have the middle family, which is the Of, and then we have the upper family, the Behemot and Chayot, that if you eat them, you need two simanim, and then it might come to mamash korbanot at the uppest level of the behema. And if on the lower level, you just eat it for yourself, it's all permitted. When you come to Beit HaMikdash, you don't even to go to Yerushalayim, but still, if you eat meat, behema, we have some influence on it. And nowadays, it's more difficult to say because we don't eat so much behemot. If we eat a fot, and people say that fish is more healthy than eating meat at all, and the world goes to eat less and less meat because we don't have anymore so much animals and food for the animals. But based on the Torah, it's a little bit afuch. That's it.
What the one thing that's all good, but one thing left out was the crawling creatures. The crawling. We mentioned before the things that on the ground. Locusts, all these things. Where do they fit?
They don't fit to this theory. I just spoke about three families. There are different things, okay? They are lichora. They have a nice mixture. We have to think it over because they are, from the one side, they are walking on the ground. Okay, so they're lichora like animals. They don't fly. On the other hand, they are like flying, like off, because they can fly a little bit. So it has, I would say that if it's 0 to the fish, 1 to off, and 2 for animals, I would say that the shratzim would be considered 1.5 or something like this, because they are between 1 and 2. We have to think how it goes into this theory, but yeah, I didn't talk about it. I just talked about 3 families. all the best and have a good vacation and הרבה בריאות to everybody. להתראות. Thanks a lot. Shabbat.